Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Asking Music podcast, brought to you by Beach Services. I've got two lovely individuals who have invited me into their home for this week's episode. I met these guys through Buskers by the Lake and just the Sunny Coast music scene. But I'll let them introduce themselves and sort of give a bit of a kick-off for tonight's episode.
Hello, my name is Hannah.
My name's Jason, and together we are Brook Street, which is a little funky little indie folk duo, which is a fresh project for us.
Awesome. Well, I suppose we may as well start with that. So that's been a this year project. How did that sort of kick off? There's obviously been a lot of stuff that's sort of already started and things they're releasing with music and all that. But when did this sort of kick off for you guys, the idea?
Oh, I mean, we've done music together for at least 6 years on and off, just randomly, around the scene. And then obviously getting married was a pretty awesome thing that happened to us.
Yep.
A bit over a year ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were kind of, we were solo musos. Well, we have been solo musos for our kind of music careers, if you want to call it, and we were kind of playing on each other's projects for a while when we needed like kind of a band backing us up. So he would kind of play on my project when I had gigs, and then I would play on his. And after a while, we kind of had started writing some songs together, and it got to that point where it was like, should we record these under your name or should we do them under mine?
Yeah.
And they were also just kind of their own vibe as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of made sense for us as the next step to create something together.
If anyone's heard, like people have heard your individual stuff, it makes perfect sense that it was a new love child, so to speak, because it doesn't necessarily blend one way or the other. What's the name? Like I'm not sure if this was something you needed to prep, but what's the name?
Well, we don't actually say it from stage because we love people to like come up and chat to us. We can give a vague version.
Okay, yep.
An exclusive.
Okay. Gee whiz, holy smokes.
How do we say this vaguely? There is a Brook Street that might exist in a big city close to here, and that may be a place that when we were dating we would always park the car on because there was no parking anywhere else. And we just have lots of fond memories of late night strolls back to the car on Brook Street. We'll leave it at that.
The ambiguity is palpable. I'm sweating. I've got goosebumps. Holy smokes.
No, that works.
I think that was enough and also not enough.
I mean, it's pretty easy for people to guess.
You want people to, want more,
But at the same time, though, I had a chat with someone earlier on in the season about his own name for his brand, and he's like, I just like the name Velvet, and then I just went through and just found things that go well with that. So look, there's two schools of thought. For you, some people have loved the mystery and want to know more, and for him, he gets a bunch of artists say, oh my God, that's so much less pressure. Yeah. If it's just something that you just come up with, that's so much easier.
It doesn't have to always mean something.
Exactly, but I like that it does. So the ambiguity is good. You've had quite a good run of shows with Tailski over the last little while. Take me through that. Talk me through the tour.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a good catalyst for us to actually get this project off the ground, because we'd obviously thought about it and talked about it and were writing songs, and then because I've toured with Tay before. And then he's like, well, why doesn't Han play bass? Because we're going to be on the road. It'd be way funner if it's, him and his wife and me and my wife.
I'd never played bass in my life.
That's true. She never played bass, yeah.
So it was a good catalyst to kind of, I'm a guitarist mostly. But yeah, it was a good kind of catalyst to learn a new instrument. Yeah, that was kind of similar, but also its own thing. So
and also singing. That's a tricky one to sing because you're playing with him, but you're not really playing the same sorts of things. As someone that plays drums and sings, sometimes I just can sort of make things a bit more simplistic and cut back the beat a little bit. The accents on the bass, they have to be there.
Yeah.
And to sing over the top of that, you wouldn't. I tell you first, you wouldn't know that you hadn't played it like properly.
They're different
before,
rhythms, like the melody lines and then the bass, like they're different kind of rhythms at certain points, so you've got to practice.
She's a dark horse though. I've never seen her try an instrument yet that's been out of her league, so
she's picked it up real quick. Well, look,
Tay picked the right person for the job.
I didn't realise, so like, and as someone that plays in the rhythm section, I did not pick it up, so
there you go.
So excellent work on that. But yeah, so you toured the best part of the country.
Yeah.
Coast, so.
Well, because, I mean, the band was just the trio. And so he's like, well, I mean, we've already got everything set up. Like, you guys can open if you want, you know. And so every sound guy was like, oh, this is a dream, you know. One set up and we're good, you know, for the night.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so what we did, pretty much the whole way from here to Melbourne, you know, the whole kind of East Coast, over 4 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess 4.5 weeks if you count driving home at the end. So Yeah. Oh, it's so good, man.
Yeah.
I kind of miss being on the road a little bit, but also nice to be in one place as well.
Yeah, no, that's true. And also, like, you get that. I think it's nice when you start in your stomping ground. And you can be like, oh, look, maybe we'll sleep in our own bed tonight. And then you're like, okay, sweet. Now we're doing it for real. Now we've, you know, the straps are off now. Now we're heading down. We're interstate and we're making the best of it. And I think you get like, you guys would obviously know each other in and out, but you get a different side of the person over that. And I suppose where you are on night one as opposed to, you know, night however many.
It's true.
It's a bit of fun, and I like that. I like that as someone, you know, that's always looking for someone like a good hang. You got to be the good hang for the bits that aren't the set in between.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes the time pass really nicely. Like, you've got each other to chat to and, you know, can share the driving and things like that too. So
yeah. Oh, and like, I feel like, especially to Sydney, it went so fast because, you know, once you've all showed, you know, oh, have you heard this song? And then, oh, this song. And that, you just end up like deep diving and ending up in weird indie, you know, underbellies of Spotify, like these obscure artists. You're like, whoa, what have we found? You know,
exactly.
You have the time to do that on a road trip, you know?
Absolutely. And also because you're all like-minded, it's not like, oh man, I've done so much talking about music, I feel like they're going to be sick of it now. It's like, that's what you're there to do.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so it just goes. And
literally our whole life.
Exactly. And as you take interchange the roles and someone does the driving and someone's on this, like, I can recall seeing stories of Tay doing these ones in the car, playing guitar whilst you guys were like doing your bits and singing. Like, he wasn't driving, just for those playing at home. But yeah, I remember seeing those ones, thinking that was just wild. So I can imagine, the drives would have gone quite quick if that was the case.
One of us cramped in the back seat in amongst all the music gear.
Yes.
We didn't. Yeah, when we put all the gear out in front on this mat, I was like, there is no way three of us are going to fit in the next trail, you know. Like, man, we should have got a van, but, you know, some serious Tetris, and we made it work. The person in the back just had a pile of, you know.
And you nail it by week 2. It's locked and loaded.
Oh yeah,
it's like a well-oiled machine.
When someone else tries to load the car, you're like, whoa, step back.
I would just get you to just take 3 steps
honestly,
back.
Thanks for helping. Place it next to the car.
Yeah, I did actually say you walk and take it off the stage. I noticed you're putting it in my car. I don't believe that was part of the original agreement.
And not in the T's and C's.
Exactly. And as someone that plays drums, I'm gonna just let you don't have to touch all the bags. Like, I really appreciate it, and it doesn't go unnoticed, but it's just happy to leave it behind the car. Like, I got the BT50, so I can put it all in the back, but like, there's certainly a skill. There's just as much as a skill there is to packing it. There's a skill to getting maybe 4 things, of which you could fit 8 in there, and fucking it up so bad that you've now made 4 things actually difficult because you went, I'll just throw that in. No, you just do it the same way every time. And I'm a bit anal like that myself.
And you know what I realized? The biggest part of it is that people don't really notice is that if you know where everything goes, then you know when something is not there.
Yes.
And especially when you're putting like 50 pieces of gear in every night, you're like, there's a gap. why is there a gap?
Yes.
And then
What
you
have
know,
we
like,
missed?
oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's like this perfect checklist of
Definitely.
not leaving your crap all over the country.
And also, you load in when it looks like this, and you load out when it looks like outside right now. Like, you load out at night. Like, you load out when it's dark. And funnily enough, everything we have is fucking black.
Oh, yeah.
We thought that was a good idea.
Music gear.
And so, yeah.
true. That's
like,
very
for me,
true.
I got my bag over there, and that's a new addition to my collection. And, yeah, if it feels lighter... It's wrong.
That's a
Call the
nice
authorities.
bag.
Yeah.
You know, like and yes, as you would note, it is also black.
There has to be, you know,
Exactly.
all music here is...
It's musical black. Where did sort of music start for you guys? Did you guys meet through music, or did something that you guys found? Or are we heading back into Brook Street territory again, and it's a big no, Bailey, red flag?
Oh,
stop.
no, we're an
No,
open
no.
book, man. Hand, take it away.
We did actually meet through music. We met at a gig that Jace was playing at, and I was kind of looking at the time for support acts for a house show I was putting on to raise money for my first EP at the time. And we had a mutual friend who kind of got us in contact, and I went to his gig to kind of suss out, you know, could he be a right fit for the support act kind of thing. And we met after he played, and I'd really liked his stuff.
Were you just playing by yourself at the time?
It was,
with his band.
the first ever Jason Daniels band gig
Oh, okay, yep,
at
yep.
Tramfest on the streets in Nambour back in the day. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's
was
crazy.
Yeah.
like 6 years ago. Yeah.
It was, you guys was like strictly musical that you wanted to do that? That was all...
Well, we kind of had a few jams. There was another guy who was coming on board as a support act too, and we kind of had, you know, a couple of practices and run through some songs we were playing together and that kind of thing. But from that point, kind of we felt like, there was some kind of an understanding between the two of us, and
A
I
musical
think
chemistry.
musically we were on a pretty similar page,
Yeah.
and found it pretty easy to co-write.
Like, sometimes you have a musical connection and it sort of becomes like a bond. Sometimes you have a bond and then you go, oh my God, we do that as well.
Yeah.
It's,
Mm.
the inverse is true.
It took us a few years to notice that though. Well, like, because Han would have been 17 or 18 when that first
18,
happened.
yeah.
And I'm like a whole year and a half, 2 years older. And so...
That wisdom it shows.
And so it was
showing,
kind of like,
it's showing
it was
through
like,
now.
I know.
you know, she's still a teenager and I'm like a whole of 20.
And, you're writing books
Yeah,
and
way
things.
too
yeah.
mature.
And so it's like, I just don't want to like, you know, she's still young. And so, so I didn't like view her in any kind of like relationship potential way. It was just like an amazing friend and an incredible musician. And then as the years went on, obviously.
From my side of things, I started, you know, developing a little crush. Pretty.
Oof.
Notice how she went straight for the crush and didn't say anything about so awesome musicians. She was just like, yeah, so I thought he was all right.
Yeah.
But he was a really nice guy. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
yep, sweet. So, yep, two schools of thoughts here. Welcome back to Marriage Counselling with
Yeah.
Baileydrummer, sponsored by Beach Services. There's not even in the book, so I don't even know, but...
It went there, bro. It went there.
Did you guys grow up in musical families? Like, were you guys always surrounded by people who played instruments?
Very much so.
Oh, yeah.
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 And we both grew up like in church as well, so just like always surrounded by music.
It's a
Yeah.
gig every weekend,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
You know, from the
literally, yeah.
youngest age, you're like, you can hold drumsticks? All right, you're up.
Yeah,
It's like-
and were you both involved
yeah.
on the stage? Yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up down south in the Blue Mountains, but I remember playing like every second Sunday from like the age of 9 or 10. You just like, couldn't even see me behind the drum kit, but it was like, you know, it's an amazing musical education. And
Yeah.
it's really special that it kind of, you know, it attaches music to like meaning so much more than just, you know, what you do with your headphones alone in your bedroom. It's also this amazing opportunity for people to come together and
Yeah. Community with music and a community of music. So I suppose the nurturing side of things, it's not playing that pub to 7 people in the sound guy. It's because it's that nurturing environment where you get comfortable playing in front of lots of people because there's always lots of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all the lots of people
Definitely.
are like, oh my God, look at little Jace behind
Yeah.
the drums.
Yeah.
Like, so it's that
Yeah.
the win of, I suppose it's, the only negative would be almost it sort of doesn't prepare you for what it's like in the real world when you do play to 3 people in the sound guy. But you get the confidence to be like,
totally.
if I can play
Yeah.
in front
Yeah.
of, like I struggle to play sometimes playing just in front of like mum and dad family. Like I sometimes, because it's too intimate.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
fair,
would like
that's
to
fair.
not know where they are.
Yeah.
In a big crowd, that makes me feel more comfortable. But like having a nurturing environment, we can week out. To
Oh
play
yeah,
stuff.
That's it.
And I think you go.
Like you said, like it kind of gets you comfortable in front of people in like from a young age. So yeah.
That's cool. And I think it's cool, like having music mean something like for your faith as well and your spirituality. I think that's really important because musicians are such creative, kind of very like switched on in that department, so it's amazing to have that music be right in that lane from the start as well. And
I suppose sometimes it can be an outlet, and obviously there's nothing wrong with it being an outlet, but often that can be it's an outlet because of this thing or because of that thing, I needed this sort of thing, whereas to grow up in something where it's like, sweet, so music is something you want to do. Awesome. How can we help that? Like I always refer back to grade 4, sitting down on the couch with mum and dad, and they said, hey, do you want to do guitar lessons or do you want to do drum lessons out? Like, because grade 4 is where the in-school lessons stuff stops, but they're happy to facilitate another instrument. Which one would it be? And I was like, I reckon I'd give drums a go. And like, it's still the most important decision I've ever made because none of this stuff happens if that decision doesn't get made. So for me, growing up in a family that was very supportive, even though they weren't on the instruments, I've actually learned more about mum and dad's musical and production theatrical side of their growing up after the fact, because they were just like, well, if that's what you'd like to do. And if I said guitar, they would have been happy as a pig in mud. And I wouldn't have known any different. But I was just a binary choice, and I just flipped the other side, and that's sort of why we're here. And so I think having two different schools of thought on that, you can often end up in the same sort of place.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are your ambitions, like either the two of you or what are the ambitions of Brook Street? Like, is it just sort of a bit of a since the Tailsky thing, see where it goes, or?
I think it was always one of the things that we really wanted to know, like long term, like to really do something together. I think that's something we've always really wanted. And so now that it's kicked off, it's like, that's an amazing momentum boost to start with an East Coast tour, playing venues with people that don't know you, but you get to, stand in front of them every night and share your songs. So now it's like, wow, everyone we met on that journey is now so wonderfully supportive. And so like, okay, so all those wonderful songs we heard, when can we, play them in the car? And so now we're like,
it gives us a good kick up the butt to like, to record more music and write more songs. And
so we've done like a song a month for the last 2 months, and then we're just finishing off the one for next month. And then in April, we're going to launch an EP of all of them together plus 2 extras.
Extras,
and then hopefully that'll satisfy people for a little while. Because we've obviously got enough music for 2 kind of full-length EPs. And so we're just like diving into that whole realm of producing it all and getting it done. And
doing it all yourselves, which is both like, it's cool to be like, I'm just relying on me and you. But also, me and you, we got to do this. It's not the same token. It's not a show. You got
to work hard for it.
Exactly. And like to start with the kick up the butt of actually going out and playing the shows, of which there was a large quantity, to then being like, okay, I'm back home. Okay, let's get back into it again. Let's have breakfast, and I'll see you, over there in a bit, sort of thing.
That's literally what it's like.
Honestly, Or Hans works down the street as well at a coffee shop that some of my family, or our family actually, because we're married, set up. And so it'll be like, I'll wake up, Hans gone to do coffees. I got to drive, just no excuses. Just get out there, start smashing away at things. And it's wonderful to try and find your own motivation, because I think I was that classic producer guy that would have 100 songs never finished. To be that guy that's like, people are waiting, it's like, it's a wonderful switch to have turned on in your producer head of, all right, well, that's I've got the thing. Put full stops on stuff. I was wondering, how do you keep your own motivation? Because often it can be that, there's no boundaries. It's just you and me. Like, we've only got ourselves to please, but also it could be like, it's only you and me. We've only got ourselves to please. How do you guys do that?
Yeah, because essentially, like, we work for ourselves. Like, if you think about it in business terms, we're like running a business together as well. So we're like, we are trying to make our creative passion like become hopefully
something we can
something we can live on.
Something marketable. Like, it's got to be something you enjoy.
And we want to be able to continue doing it, full time. So that's kind of what we're working towards. But I forgot the question.
Well, I think there's two things that I've figured out and that we've figured out together that really like keep us going. And I think one, songs have a specific season while they're still alive and they're still vibrant. And then as soon as that season ends, you look back at that song, and unless you've captured it in that season, you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
it just doesn't feel the same now when I have to sing it 400 times in a studio.
Especially with vocal takes. When you're singing a song, you want to be in that moment that it was written in, and like that the feeling that you've captured was in. And if you've moved past that kind of phase of your life or season or moment, then you don't sing it with as much conviction.
I would definitely agree with that.
You can tell like when there's emotion in a voice and they really mean what they're saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so, for us, it's like we're already wanting to write all these new Brook Street songs, and we're loving them, and you can feel like, oh, I'm loving them more than these current ones. So it's like, well, don't like.
You got to get the old ones
done. Get these old ones done before they expire.
Yeah. And you're right. That authenticity is noticeable, whether or not it's stark to the average punter. It's they're not quite inner, but those that listen with a bit more of a critical ear go, oh, I think they're done with this, And like for me, I had a massive back catalogue of songs I wrote in high school, which essentially was just me telling stories that meant a lot to me through song, things I couldn't necessarily say, and it was all me. I played all the instruments, and I was like, I want to get to a point where I can comfortably, even though they're not necessarily of the highest fidelity, they're of a product that is actually listenable. They're not fully. There's not wrong things in there. There's not like, oh, where's the bass gone? They're not sonically incorrect. But as I redid them, I was like, yeah, the remix of all this. But for me, it was just squiggles on a Logic pad. It wasn't there anymore. Like,
Didn't
I remember
have
the stories.
Same magic.
Yeah, but I was listening back to it going, oh, so I sound prepubescent in this. But then singing it back again, I'm like, sonically, this is great. Like, the vocal, it's me singing now, but it was a 17-year-old that was going through it. And, at 23, the voice is a bit deeper and, it may sound better, but you think back, and for me, I have that discography rather than the live thing because I can't play all the instruments at once. So I go, okay, I want to have something solid that I'm proud of listening back to as a bit of a legacy discography thing. And I go, yeah, but man, there's so much heart and soul into little 17-year-old Bailey. He was cranking it.
It was his moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I suppose I didn't realize that until afterwards. I was so focused on, listen to that. That doesn't match. That is just not cutting the mustard. I'm embarrassed that it's on there. So I focused on that more than I suppose the story.
Yeah, which is like people are hungry for authenticity. Like people are dying for it.
Yes.
They're searching for it in every like creative medium, and so people have gotten really good at sniffing it out when it's really there. You know, and it doesn't matter all the rough edges around it. It's like they'll just grab onto it.
Are actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think
they're memorable.
Yeah,
in some ways.
Yeah, because like when I was at uni,
look at the Lumineers.
Yes,
intentional rough edges.
Yes,
So many. Yeah,
I think that's actually a good thing. If I'd known about that, like as a case study to use when I was at uni, because at uni everyone was talking about authenticity and seeing through the bullshit and stuff. But they're also caught in that, if you want to do too much with your music, like yourselves, then you're a sellout and all this sort of stuff, and trying to find that happy medium of, so you want it to be your main crust, but if you earn too much money, you're a sellout sort of thing, and trying to get that, we really need to get the authenticity of this. The fact that you're having to say we need to get it means it's not there.
Right.
And I suppose that's the thing. It's like, I heard that the Beatles, they put a pillow on the snare so it sounds different. It's like, nah, it's just because the snare was rubbish and they needed to put a pillow on it. So it was authentically good then. If you go, this is my pillow snare track, everyone's like, why wouldn't you just record a good one?
Yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't you just record? No, but they did it. It's like, but they did it maybe because necessity, maybe the kick drum patterns are really slow because someone broke their ankle and they had to play with their left foot and they're not as good, That was authentic at the time.
Yeah.
It's not authentic if you go, I know that, dragging nails across a grater makes a really good, snare backbeat. It's like, maybe it does, but maybe it was only done back then because that's all they had. And this idea, patent pending, TM. But I don't know. You can't recreate someone else's authenticity and go, no, but they did it. And it was super good when they did it.
That's it.
So with the latest releases, what are those two tracks about? Like, what are the tracks about? Sort of for the whole EP sort of thing? Is there a one current going through them all, or?
I mean, we'll probably start with the EP name. It's going to be called I Saw Me Talking, which is the first line of Steady Steady.
Yep.
And we were throwing around what to call it. But when we thought about that line, I think you actually thought this. When you said that line out loud as a title, it just made a lot of sense, because a lot of the songs are very much singer-songwriter, us looking at our very introspectively.
Yeah.
But in a way that other people can just insert themselves into the introspection, if that's a word. You know what I mean? Like,
it's both ambiguous and raw and like you enough that I can go, oh, I remember about that. Yeah. Even though I wasn't there for what you actually wrote about.
Yeah.
And
I think the idea of it is like, I saw me talking is like kind of someone in a conversation and they're talking about something and suddenly they're realizing, oh, this is like a thought that's in me or like a belief or some kind of pattern. And it's like kind of this moment of revelation almost, where it's like, oh, I saw me talking and I knew what was going on inside of me. Like, I knew that I wasn't over this particular thing, or like I've been pondering, something.
Being self-aware, like talking about like self-discovery can often be like a laissez-faire term for just saying wishy-washy songwriter stuff. But in scheme of things, actually, like for me, knowing that I made the discovery that perhaps that season that you mentioned with the high school songs had passed, I've now realized it. That is a journey of self-discovery. I didn't go out to the Himalayas and sit and go om for it, but I just discovered something about myself. And I suppose on that level, that's what it's about, I guess.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And honestly, like it was half and half whether we were intentionally songwriting that way or not. Some of it were like, I want to tell this story. But half of them were like, we just had a phrase, we had some chords, we started writing, and then we're like, oh, far out. Like this is talking to me and telling myself what's going on more than I even understand. You know, it's a very kind of therapeutic in a way.
Catharsis, I think.
Yeah, that's
very.
Like I think Steady Steady was a bit of a serendipitous moment for us, because like I had my chunk written, I had the verse and the melody line, and it was very like originally very John Mayer, very like smooth bluesy kind of vibes, but I just had the lyrics talking about trauma, because I'd gone through a pretty hectic time for kind of 2 and a bit years. I moved out to an Indigenous community and I taught music there, and it was such a full-on experience to see what they have to go through, and just being a little East Coast kid, it blows your mind. It's full on, it's beautiful, and the culture is stunning, but then what they have to grapple with day to day,
you have to accept it for what it's worth. You got to stay on top of it to not to not lose yourself sort of in it, so to speak. But it's an adjustment.
And so like I think the biggest thing was like the reverse culture shock, moving back, and then you're just like, well, who am I? Once you go through a huge experience, you can kind of lose yourself in it all, and especially when there's trauma involved and you go through scenarios where you're like, man, this is full on. And so for me, it was like trying to re-find who Jason is again. And it just seems so like nothing's happening at times until you zoom out and you just realize it is small steps. It's a steady process. And so that's where that verse was just like straight out on the paper, and then I kind of left it. I couldn't find any other family for this phrase.
Didn't know where else it needed to go.
But then I brought it to the table when we did our first kind of co-write for a duo, and then I'll let you take it on from here, Han, because it's your story.
And I'd kind of been sitting on a chorus for ages, like and I'd tried to write a song around it, but just kind of couldn't, and so I just had it there, and it was kind of a marker for a season of my life where I'd moved away from home and made some good friends in another place. And then one of them kind of hurt me quite a lot and broke my trust. And I guess it's one of those things when you trust someone so deeply and they betray that, it's hard to kind of find your way back to trusting people again in the same capacity. And so I was kind of wrestling with those emotions and everything that kind of came with that and processing. So I'd written this chorus about it, And then somehow we were just writing one night
Same
a few
key,
months ago.
same tempo,
No way.
same topic.
And these two pieces just like fit together perfectly.
Yeah.
And
then the guitar riff was literally me like taking the chords from her half and then the melody from my half and just ripped them both in half and came up with the riff. And it was just like the song was done in like literally as fast as we've kind of had this conversation. Probably.
It was such a crazy moment. Like we'd both been sitting on these parts of a song for ages
that were nothing by themselves.
And then
but it also had the connection. It had a vague connection that you could actually put together.
So that's why it's got a real special place in our heart. Steady, you know, and as it is a song of hope, I think like you have to look pretty hard at it to see the hope in it. But I think, you know, we really want people to take it as their own and like just whatever scenario people are going through, like that can be your song, that can be your anthem. Like where we've luckily been blessed to move past that season where we've found ourselves again and where it's such a positive, you know, place that we're in now. But that song is always there for those that, you know, are not
in that season.
space.
And as a reminder for us when we go through hard times, you know, it's inevitable, life happens, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, as just a reminder that there's a process there, and if you just take it step by step, you'll get out the other side. And and
it's something to reflect on, just to be like, okay, that's where I was. Like we were actually both there. How good's insert thing here, or maybe the next hurdle. Remember when we were there?
Yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
that I've often looked at that reflection. You know, you flick on the playlist, and you know, for me, something in mine pops up, and I go, "Whoa, geez, I remember when that thing happened." You know, those sorts of things. Like that's a funny, the funny part of music, and why I love that as a storytelling method to be able to have that. You know, it's the memoirs, so to speak, but in a musical,
capsules,
it's a musical time capsule. You can just go back to, and it's just a title for someone else, but for you, it's like, oh my god, I remember that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. To wrap up, where can the lovely people find you? Your own stuff, Brook Street. Where can the lovely people explore your music?
So we're under Brook Street Music on Instagram.
Brook is in like BROOK, not like Brook
as
is in the person
as in like
Brook.
the creek or a stream.
Yes, and street as in ST.
ST.
Yes,
ST. Yeah. So we're Brook Street Music on pretty much every platform, and I don't know, we're updating gigs regularly on Insta and on our Spotify now. I finally worked out how to do that.
Hello. You guys are excellent performers, and one thing Erin said to me when we saw you play before the end of the year or the beginning of this year was that you guys have a very well suited orally to one another. So we look forward to seeing you at something locally very soon. So best of luck to you guys with everything that you have going on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for hitting us up. 100%.
No, it was a pleasure. Well, that's another episode of the Asking Muso podcast. Lovely to be chatting with these two individuals, and it's exciting to see what they've got going on, and it proves that the Sunny Coast music scene is in very safe hands. So, as always, oh my gosh, the marriage counselling is happening again. So as always, 9 a.m. and 9 a.m. every Tuesday. On YouTube, I believe, is a place where I post these. Like, subscribe, comment, all those things that all the vloggers do. And until next time, I'll see you later.